In this lesson, again using the engine for motion assembly, we're going to talk about the idea of virtual components inside SOLIDWORKS. We run into virtual components a couple of times. The first time you'll run into virtual components is when you create a new component within SOLIDWORKS. So this is insert, component, new part. In the context of an assembly, we're getting the check mark that's asking us to place the plane on an existing plane. And now we're in a sketch as a part of a brand new part that SOLIDWORKS has created. You'll notice that SOLIDWORKS has not asked us to name this new part or place it in a directory. That's because this part is a virtual part. A virtual part exists only within the assembly. If we want to create some geometry, let's just create something generic here and make an extrusion so it has at least something in it. Now we can get out of the part edit mode and we're back into assembly edit mode. We can still see that this part has a name with a caret in it. Part 1, caret, and then the name of the assembly. If we right click on this virtual part, we can open it in its own window, just like any other part. And if I hit F on the keyboard for zoom to fit, we've got this geometry that I created. Also, if we right click on it, we have some other options. We can rename it, call it virtual part, but it's still a virtual part even though we've renamed it. It just doesn't have the default automatically assigned name. Right click on it again. And this time, I'm going to save part in an external file. I'm going to give it a different name, filter plate. We may even assign a special path. So I could use the specify path option and put it anywhere I wanted to. In this case, the path where it is will be just fine. When we say OK, SOLIDWORKS has saved out that filter plate now to an external file, and it's no longer virtual. But you can take an existing part and make it virtual. To do that, you guessed it, right-click on the part and just select Make Virtual. You can do that for any part, whether the part was initially virtual or not, such as this wrap part. I could right-click on that and make it virtual. That would save all of the information for that particular part within the assembly. When you use virtual parts, the assembly file gets very large, but the advantage is that you don't have any external references, and you don't have any assembly files that have to go along with the assembly. You could make an entire assembly completely out of virtual parts with no externally saved files. This would make sharing files much easier. Another place where you'll run into virtual components is if you take a group of parts, such as this, right-click, and say Form New Subassembly here. SOLIDWORKS is going to automatically move, or in some cases delete, features and components to the new subassembly. Now again, you see that I was not asked for a name or a location for this subassembly. SOLIDWORKS just put it in here. And you can see the same name structure is at work with the default generated name, caret, then the name of the assembly. And if I save this assembly to an external file, we'll just call it practice subassembly, specify a folder for it, and say OK. Now it automatically becomes a regular assembly component. So the difference between a virtual part and a virtual component is really just the difference between a part and a subassembly.